So what about all of us, teachers who research, teachers who write? How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself juggling several balls at the same time? Some of you are nodding your heads and you feel that you're going around in a circle. You're not knowing where you're going, that you're trying to handle too many things at the same time and to keep all those balls up in the air. If you think about what we are doing all the time, very often it's the teaching that could be the stimulus for an inquiry on an interest area of your own. At the same time, we all know that we would like to work towards research-driven pedagogy, where it's grounded in earlier work that has been tested, that has been proven, and which you want to find out whether it works for yourself as well. And this is something that we try to impress on teachers, that when we engage in research or inquiry, it's part and parcel of what we do, hopefully on a day-to-day basis. It's something that every teacher who reflects, if you claim to be a reflective practitioner, that you want to study what is it that works for your students and yourself, what is it that doesn't work, that you will begin to start to investigate and probe more deeply into what is happening in the classroom. One of the things that has helped us in our work with teachers is to help them see inquiry as a process. And indeed, if we begin with wanting to understand what is really happening, we need to step back. We need that space, as some of you have today. I think it's wonderful to just set aside time to step back, reflect, talk about your work, and engage with other researchers like yourself to get their perspective, to find out about things that you probably did not notice or perhaps understand. A lot of it involves noticing, just being observant enough to be mindful of certain things that may have escaped you, that you may have overlooked. Being curious and learning to ask questions, learning to ask the right questions in order to help yourself shape your focus and to decide what to do in the next step. Only then, perhaps, can you then consider more carefully the intervention that you would like to embark on. What is it that you may want to try out? What is it that you may want to adapt or modify, and perhaps even discard or reject earlier practices, ultimately with the objective of improving the practice. At the heart of it all, one of the things that we are very concerned about in MOE is the why before the what. What is it that drives teachers to do inquiry? What is it that is meaningful to them? Is it just getting that paper out and presenting at a conference? About 2 days ago, we were heartened to know, and MOE has been tracking, the number of our local teachers who are engaging more in school-based inquiry of their own, and more than that, who are presenting papers at local conferences and also regional and international conferences. The numbers are increasing every year, and that's been very encouraging for us. But at the end of it all, we do ask ourselves, what is the purpose? And ultimately, if the child, if the student, if the learning is not at the forefront of what you do, then it really begs the question of what you are as a professional. And this is something that we want to impress on our teachers, that inquiry should not be seen purely as another add-on, another project, another must-do, another KPI to be met, but it really is a way of professional being and the identity of yourself as a researcher. And even for our teachers in embarking on research of their own, what is that identity? I don't know many of you personally, but just looking at the titles of your investigation, it gives me a sense of your own identity, because that's an area that we have chosen to pursue, and it must be something we hope. It is something that you are very passionate about. So that's something to think about as we engage with more students, more teachers, and other like-minded researchers. What it means to be a researcher. the professional being and the identity is critical. What we try to help our teachers understand is that when they engage in inquiry, it works on different levels. For some of our teachers, it really helps them to understand and probe a little bit more about the theories and the codified body of knowledge that has been tested, that has been proven, that has been formalized. And to understand the why for what they are doing is critical. And it's helped them actually to contextualize what they are doing in a very specific manner. At the same time, as we all know as teachers, there are certain things that we know by instinct. There are certain things that is more of an implicit kind of knowledge that we may not necessarily make explicit unless we have the opportunity to do so. And I think this is very important for experienced teachers who have been with us for many years in the system, what we call the craft knowledge. How much of that is articulated, how much of that is actually shared on a wider level with other practitioners and who are able to give other alternative perspectives of what they are doing. So we feel that that's a very important reason why we want teachers to engage in inquiry, to make explicit what they already know, perhaps implicitly. At the same time, as they embark on perhaps different ways of doing things, there is a need to justify and develop that new body of knowledge. And there's nothing like having alongside with you, just as you have this afternoon and this morning in this community, a group of other researchers who can provide you the alternative perspective. And that's where we feel the rigor in subjecting your ideas to the critical scrutiny of other practitioners in a more supportive environment is absolutely critical. And that's something that we are trying to build up among our schools across the island. Some of the things that we found teachers have expressed have helped them tremendously is that when they begin to inquire into their own practice, they begin to surface what is crucial, what we call the mission-critical issues to what they are doing. Unless you stop to reflect and stand back, as we talked about it earlier, to have that space, instead of just moving from day to day, from class to class, and have that space to actually reflect, it's sometimes very difficult to actually see what the critical aspects of whatever you're doing, the pedagogy that you're adopting, the strategy that you're trying out means, and the impact on the students. At the same time, there is a need to prioritize your needs. There are so many things to be done, and teachers are multitasking all the time. And to help them see what the real need is that's going to be meaningful and purposeful for the students is absolutely critical. At the same time, that will help them to then develop different ways of addressing some of those needs. One of the approaches that we have taken to helping our teachers approach inquiry is a framework that's been adopted in New Zealand by Timperley and her team, and it works in a systematic way around the whole idea of knowledge building and teacher inquiry, supporting and enhancing the construction or the building of knowledge in a collaborative manner.